Yeah,
all right.
ESFs,
so let's go to 3. 3, I don't know. This is one of those ones, and I want you to talk about it. I don't know how you could be an introvert and be a 3. That seems a little, 3 seems very extroverted. It's promotion. It's putting yourself out there. It's very sort of, the energy's going out there. I'm not saying every extrovert is a 3, but I don't know that any introvert is a 3.
I think introverts can have 3 as a wing.
Yes.
I mean, for instance, like 4 wing 3 is what I...
Yes, you can.
That's what I am.
Right, but I don't think you could be a 3 wing 4 and be an introvert.
I think 3 is
that
pretty
seems
much...
wacky.
3 is pretty much all the extroverts with the exception of ENFP. Honestly.
That's interesting. Why you don't think we would be why would you think that we're not a 3 primary?
Because
I mean, I don't think I'm a 3 primary, but I want to hear why you think it.
Because like we've been saying, I mean, the primary drive for 3 is that that external validation of the highest outstanding degree.
Yes.
And I just don't see ENFPs.
Right. I could be a 2 wing 3 as an ENFP.
Drive.
Yeah.
I can see it maybe being in tri-type or in in your wing, but I don't see that being the main drive.
Okay. All right, so let's go to 4. Now, 4 is very NF, and I think it's clear that INFP and INFJ, but I don't see a lot of... I can't imagine any of the thinking types being a 4.
No,
primary.
No.
Okay.
4 has...
So if it's all the NTs, forget it. There's no primary NT4. It just seems incompatible.
Yeah, no, I don't see it at all from any thinking type.
Yeah, that's true. The ISTJ, ESTJs, I don't see it for any of them either.
No, the thing is that
you have to be a feeler, I think.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, 4 is very much rooted in emotions, especially emotions turned inward. And, 4, when you break it down, it's a very reactive type. And if MBTI thinkers claim to be... looking for logic, looking to be rational, looking to be clear-minded about things. 4 just ain't that. 4 is a very
no kidding.
withdrawn, reactive type.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That says it all. But,
it says NF all over.
Yeah, so with that said, I can see INFP, INFJ, ISFP.
Yeah,
and
certainly feelers. Okay, we can give ISFP,
Yeah, and I think ENFP, but 4 wing 3, not 4 wing 5.
Yes, and also a small minority. I could see a few of us being a 4, but I wouldn't see most of us. Yeah. I could see a lot of us being 2s, but I don't see a lot of us being 4s. It's a little too melancholy. I mean, granted, we're NFs. I can get into that place, but not like, you know what I mean? There's something that brings us out of it.
Yeah, it can be, but I don't think.
It seems almost a little too introverted.
Yeah. And a lot of ENFPs can be very withdrawn.
Yes.
In their ways. I think they're one of probably the most reserved of the extroverts, but I don't think they dominate.
All right. So let's look at now 5. 5 seems very NT. Okay, the NTs can all be in 5. I don't see and we talked about this, I don't see any NFs being in 5, like 5 primary.
No, I don't.
Because it's contrary to being an NF.
To me, 5 is the most controversial type in terms of people trying to fit MBTI types in it. A lot of people try to fit INFJ in type 5 in it.
Yeah, I don't see it either.
I mean, if you're just the NF values versus the 5 motivations and derailers and all that stuff, they just don't, by definition, both of them just do not correlate. I don't see it.
All right.
5 is
right, and I don't see sensors. A lot of sensors.
I see ISTP.
Most of the sensors I don't.
I see ISTP, but mostly I see.
I know that's an interesting choice.
Yeah, I see. Well, I think ISTP is always looking to understand every concrete non-human thing around them.
Yes.
In some sense, but I think 5 to me, its main motivation is to detach and to withdraw, and I just don't see the detaching truly being looking at information from a detached standpoint, like I don't see NFs doing that.
No,
Any of
I
the
agree.
NFs.
So 6 is kind of a mixed bag. A lot of people can fit into 6.
Yeah.
That's probably where you have the most types, where the
Yeah.
most range of types.
Absolutely.
Can be in 6. Almost any type can be in 6. Not all types are 6, but I think that's the largest
not all
amount.
types. I think 6.
You could be, introverted, feeling,
Yes, 6.
judging.
6 like 1 kind of seems very SJ.
Yeah, all the SJs
I think
would fit into 6.
the type that really
Yes.
says 6 the best, I think, is ISFJ.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, just about every single one of them can be a 6.
Yeah.
I think really any type that really focuses on looking for support and really fearing a lack of just a lack of security and support.
So let's go to 7. Now 7, I don't know. Okay, seems very extroverted to me. I'm considered a 7. I can see that, but it also seems very perceiving, and I can see that as myself because if you're going to be sort of the show, you got to have you got to improvise, you got to razzmatazz.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I got with NFGeeks. I can razzmatazz and go with the flow. That seems very perceiving. Okay, but then that keeps out all the J's. You can't be a judger and be a 7.
I don't think so. I don't think you can really own 7 as with J in your MBTI type.
So all right, so you can't be a 7.
No, and the reason being, I think you have to be extrovert and perceiving, or at least perceiving, because I think 7's main thing is getting external stimulation, and really all the EP types get that. I'd say the other type that sticks out, the only non-extrovert type I can see would be an ISTP. But mostly the extroverted perceivers. Yeah. It's really it encapsulates what it is.
Yeah, I definitely can see the perceiving because you gotta swing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can see that. All right, for 8, I kind of think of it as the leadership number. So ESTJ, ENTJ, ENFJ, even ESTP.
Totally.
Seems very extroverted,
It
dominant.
does. Yeah.
I can't see most of the introverts being an 8.
No, I think the one introvert that can be an 8 would be INTJ. But I think really any kind of like how every extrovert perceiving type can be a 7. I think really 8s are dominated by extroverts with judging. So that's all the EJs, and I can see ENTP being one of them. But really, outside of the extroverts with judging, I think only ENTP and ISTP also fit 8.
All right. And so 9, I think for 9, we certainly have introverts. Not all the introverts, but I can't imagine an extrovert being a 9. It seems that extroverts have too much energy coming out, and it can't create that sort of peacefulness, calmness that's sort of associated with 9.
I agree.
Or 2, it just seems counter to being a 9. I think you have to be. I think you don't have to be. A lot of people think INFJs are 9s or whatever, and that's true. I know a lot of 9 INFJs.
Yeah, I used to think I was one myself.
There you go. So you can be other. So they could be other introverted types, but I can't see an extrovert being a 9. Seems impossible.
I see introverts with feeling being 9s.
Yeah, it's tough to be a it's tough. But most of the thinkers you wouldn't put in there.
Yeah, the only thinker I would say would be INTP.
I actually can see that. In there. Yes, I can see that. They're very calm. INTPs are very sort of skating along.
Sure.
I can see that totally.
Yeah.
All right, so we're go ahead.
There's one thing I want to say. I mean,
sure, say it.
We're fitting all these things in boxes, and the one biggest criticism I see all throughout the type community on all the forums really is mistaking closed-mindedness for limitations.
Yes, and taxonomy. You know what I mean? Of defining things.
Yes. Every once in a while there's a very rare exception, but rare, very rare. I mean, that's the whole thing about being an exception, is that it's so minuscule that it just doesn't represent what the system is.
Yeah.
And I think people, the biggest thing that I want people to take away is don't mistake limitations of a system as closed-mindedness.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be worse than that.
No, be worse. No, yeah.
Sure, because it's my show. I can do this. So I'm gonna take, because it's a very NF position and a very ENFP thing to say, but I question totally the true motivations behind those statements. And I think people cry box anytime that they don't. That they are afraid that somehow this connects to their identity, and they can't just be what they want when they want. And when that's questioned, that you can't just put it together any way you want, they cry foul. when really it comes from a misunderstanding and not being educated enough and not understanding their own type, how to type themselves, how this all works, and wanting it to work the way you want it, meaning shape identity, and that you can just do anything with it. And I think that's where that fear comes out of that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think people cry box anytime anybody makes a definitive statement on anything. So I just wish people would stop confusing in the box closed-mindedness for just making a definitive statement on something that has limits, which everything has limits, including
that's
systems
right.
of thought.
And I also think what we've said today about all this kind of shows that these things are compatible. I think that the way we've presented it shows that these things, we've made it more compatible.
We gave it a lot of leeway.
Right, and I think that if you think of it the way we're thinking of it, then these things go together better.
Yeah, there were a lot of types within each type that we named.
That's right. So, there was plenty of room.
You got your leeway.
Yes.
Really, there's your open-mindedness.
Yes, absolutely. And that by using it this way, you can narrow down your type a lot better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you can get through, if you use it the system we just said, you can get from one to the other. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So if you've narrowed down that you're a 5, you got it down, you're absolutely sure you're a 5, okay, then you really can eliminate about, 11 of the MBTI types.
Yeah.
And just think, okay, am I an INTP, an INTJ?
Good point, yeah.
You're down to 5.
Absolutely.
Just by realizing you're a 5. And the same thing too, if you're an INTP, then there's only 2 numbers here. 9, you're either a 9 or a 5. So now you've narrowed it down. Just by getting that right. So because if this system allows you to truly get from one to the other, whereas I think the loosey-goosey side of it, and I know I see it as loosey-goosey, but the loosey-goosey use of it, no, it's not that it's loosey-goosey. See, I corrected myself. The use of it is loosey-goosey, I think leads to it being worse, because if I can be any number, well then I can be any type too.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And that makes it a big problem, to it too.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any now? This is just sort of riffing off of our top of our heads. We were talking about the types. What about the temperaments? Do you think that basic temperaments are sort of connected in a way through all this? So, for example, NF seems very. If we went through them all, it seems very 2, 4, 7, 9. You know what I mean? NF seems very strong in that.
I'd say that's very NF.
Right, and and SJs travel together. All the SJs are in 1, all the SJs are in 6. Yeah,
SJ seems very 1, seems very 6, some 8. NF seems very 2, 4, maybe 6, definitely 7. And I'd say the SPs have a lot of them too, but SP really seems to be 3, some in 2, maybe 6, definitely 7.
Yeah.
Some in 8, and then NTs. What do you think for NT?
Obviously, 5.
Yeah.
They're big in there. But let's talk about this extroversion. Some types are particularly extroverted, like 3 and 7 are particularly extroverted. 9 is particularly introverted. You can't be. I think that makes a difference.
Yeah.
So if you're an extrovert, that you know what I mean, that limits it. You can now get your 1 of 3 numbers as opposed to 1 of 9 numbers. Just by being extroverted, you can kind of narrow it down.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the more you narrow it down, whether you're SJ or SP. Interesting. I found that SP was the most spread out.
They like to spread around.
Yeah, apparently they do. That makes them the most. And this is the thing. This is what it actually makes it more viable. Is that it means that the SP is the most flexible in the numbers. Well, you know what? They're kind of the most flexible without thinking about the numbers. They are as SPs, and now you put in the numbers, they kind of spread out.
In more ways than one, yeah.
Yeah, see, they're flexible. They're flexible in both systems, So again, I think that it's very Taoist, the reversal of our opposites. The more limiting we make this, the more useful it actually becomes.
Sure.
It's now become by limiting it down, we've actually opened it up, to use. All right, so you have any last thoughts about all this, Nick?
That's it. I mean, like I said, my last thought is just don't cry box anytime someone makes a definitive statement.
That's right.
On something that has limits, such as a system.
And let's be hypothetical. Like if someone, I'll just pull a name right out of the air.
Sure.
Someone named Mike comes on and says those types of things. I think that hypothetically, let's say there's this guy named Mike and he has this YouTube channel and he says these things. Maybe he's really talking about the limitations of theory, and that Perhaps it could be. This is all hypothetical. We're just creating a situation, a simulation, if you will. All right. Well, Nick, thank you very much as always. And for those of you watching, hopefully you've made it this far. Check out NFGeeks on Tumblr and Twitter, and join the the Facebook forum, NFGeeks discussion group, and where you can talk to Nick, personally about these things. And this was happening. This episode was really happening. All sorts of things happened.
The best.
Yes.
Thing.
Yeah, you think so? Yeah, it was happening in all sorts of ways.
It was happening, yeah.
Yes. All right.
As always.
Yes. Great.